Okay, we're going to try to get started with installing Microsoft Visual Studio Express. I'm just going to start up Internet Explorer here, and I'm going to use Google because I'm lazy and it's fast. I'm going to type Visual Studio Express, and it finds not only the main Visual Studio Express page, but all the little sub-pages, one for each language. So here's the C# page. We're going to click on that, and momentarily we will be at Microsoft's download page. Nothing could be simpler. There is a big blue Install Now button. We're going to click that, and momentarily click Run and Run. What this is doing is actually downloading a small program that's going to do the actual install. So this very first install is pretty quick. It's just going to take about a minute, and I'm going to stick with it here just so that we can see that happen. And this thing is going to do the hard work for us. So let's give it a minute here. Okay, we're going to say next. You have to agree to the license agreement. You've probably seen this 100 times before, so I'm going to read the license agreement real quick and say next. Now, Microsoft always wants to install Silverlight. I don't care for it. I don't need it. I'm going to turn it off. And say next and say install. And away it goes. It's going to do all the hard work for us now. I have a very slow internet connection, and this still is only going to take a few minutes. So I'm going to go away for a few minutes and come back. And as you can see, we're almost fully downloaded now. That really only took about 5 minutes on my very slow connection, so on yours it probably won't take any time at all. It gets done downloading, and it's going to start installing. So here it's actually doing the install work for the Visual Studio. This also only takes a few minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes maybe, not much time at all. But I'm going to go away and come back. And it's almost done installing now. It doesn't look like it because of that progress bar, but it is. And in just a moment here, we're going to see that it is done. Okay, all done. So I'm going to click the exit button. I'm exiting the installer. And I'm going to put down Internet Explorer for a minute. Don't need you for a little while. And let's just go take a peek at the Start menu and see if we really did install something. Start Programs. Now there's a new group installed here called Microsoft Visual Studio 2010 Express. And inside there is the individual languages. Here's Visual C#. So the first thing I like to do is put a shortcut on the desktop. I do it by right-clicking and dragging out to the desktop and saying copy here. It might seem a little odd, but what you're copying is the shortcut. So there it is. Now we're all installed. We're going to go ahead and start this Visual C# up. So I'm going to go ahead and double click that. It opens up. And it opens up to this little start page that they like to say. And it's got a little helper things over here and a little introduction over here. Welcome to Visual C#. Yes, yes, yes. I'm just going to make a few adjustments, the very first thing here, to get things ready for us. The very first one I'm going to do is in the Help menu called Manage Help Settings. And what that does, you can get your help online, or you can download it and install it right into your computer here. Downloading it and installing it is a little bit quicker and more reliable. Who knows if your internet connection is going to work when you want it. So I'm going to say choose online or local. Click that once. I'm going to set local. If it's set to online, just change it to local. And you don't have to change anything here, so just say OK. And then the next thing you want to do is this one right here, install content from online. And so basically if you click that, it's going to go out to the internet. It's going to download some lists of help files that it can download and install for you. So we're going to wait and get a list here of things that we might want to install. There they are. So we're going to go ahead and say, let's add, unfortunately you can't make this window any bigger, so here's, you can see some of these are quite large. The very first one we're going to do is help on help, so this is something to help us use the help system. We're going to say add. It doesn't actually do it right away, it just says update pending. It's going to go ahead and download that for us when we give it a chance. I'm going to click on this desktop development one here, add, and that puts it here. Nice. We're not going to do any of these just yet. Until we get down to here, Visual C#. Let's go ahead and add that one. That's going to be a good one, obviously. And then some of these Visual Studio All and Visual Studio Fundamentals, that's a pretty good one to have. You can come back and change these later, but let's start with those. So for now we've got Visual Studio All and Visual Studio Fundamentals. Coming up here we've got the Visual C#, and then going up a little bit farther we've got Help on Help. How nice. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and say update. That begins this download process. And the nice thing is it can go ahead and do that without us. We don't have to sit here and watch it. We can take this and just say hide, and it's going to go ahead and download it in the background. And we'll just let that go for a while. Meanwhile, we will turn our attention to some of these other options that are over here that we need to get set up. There's a couple of things that we can change that I think make it a little bit easier to use. If you go to the Tools menu and you go to Options, these are some things that we can change. There's a number of settings here in the text editor area that we're going to change. So this first one is in this general area, and it's called Track Changes. I'm just going to turn that off. I don't care for it. If we go down to C# and Advanced, there's two in here we want to change. This one here says Enter Outlining Mode when files are open. If that's on, go ahead and turn it off. And this one here, Highlight References to Symbol Under Cursor. If that's on, go ahead and just turn it off. I like to have that off. And say OK. So those will become our preferences for the future. Okay, so this start page, we can just go ahead and say go away. We can always come back and look at that again later. Just for kicks, I'm going to go ahead and say this, and we should see, yeah, still downloading. It's on number 2. That's fine. Let's go ahead and hide that. So what we're going to do is go ahead and make a new project. Visual Studio uses with projects, which is to some extent just another name for a program or an application. So when you say new project, it gives you a choice of some of these predefined types of projects. And for the moment, we're going to do this console application. So you go ahead and click on that once and say, OK. You can change this name here. You can change it later, but you can change it right now too. And this will be the name of the program. For now, we're going to call this Hello World. That'll be our first program. And so when we click OK, it goes ahead and it gets things set up for us a little bit. This over here is what they call the Solution Explorer. A solution is a group of programs, and we are all just going to have one program in our group. That's fine. So this is our solution called Hello World. It has a program called Hello World in it. Try not to worry about what that means just yet. Inside that program, there's a couple of other items here, one of which is this file called program.cs. So source files in C# and with .cs. You've probably seen .doc files and .exes or .xls's, right? So each of those dot things tries to tell you what kind of a file you're dealing with. .docs are Word files, .cs's are C# files. So we're just going to leave that as program.cs for now. when I clicked on that over there, it opened the file up over here. So this little tab over here is an editing window that I can use to edit that file. I'm going to go ahead and double click this to make it a little bit bigger. That's the same thing. I don't know if you've ever done it, but it's the same as hitting this little guy here. So that's the biggerizer button. And so here's this file that Visual Studio has gone ahead and given us when we made this brand new application of a console application. It wrote all this stuff in here for us kind of automatically, and that's nice. Gets you started. You could type all these things. It's just a text editor. I could select this and delete it and put it all, type it in all myself, but it's nice that it goes ahead and types it for me. Gets me started. There's a small chance that you don't have this error list tab showing down here. I'm not sure if it's always showing or not. You'll notice that these tabs have little close boxes just like a window does, and if you close them, then they're gone, and this window gets bigger to fill up the available space. If that ever happens, you go to the View menu and you choose, in this case, Error List, and that brings up this error list guy down here. You can do the same thing. You notice that there's a tab over here called Properties. You can say View, Properties window. You can make the Properties window go away. You can go to the View menu and make it come back. So if you ever find that one of these is missing, it's possible that you've just clicked this little close box or something else has happened and it's gone away. So you just say View to bring it back. This tab down here is the error list, and what it tries to do is show you whether there's any errors in your program. As you are typing up here, the system is constantly looking at your program and trying to decide whether it's got any errors in it. And it does a decent job of making a good first guess at it. So for example, if I had typed here uses by accident, it puts the little squiggly red lines under it, which maybe you've seen if you've used Microsoft Word. They use those little squiggly lines to show you a spelling error. So it puts little squiggly lines under there, and it puts a little explanation down here of why, it thinks that's a problem. We'll talk later about what it's trying to tell us here. But suffice to say that if you make a typo up here, it tries to help you out and show you where the errors are. I'm going to put it back the way it was. This is the code that they originally provided for us, and with a little luck, it's correct. Let's check in on our help. Okay, downloading. Lovely. Okay, so I just want to draw your attention to a few things so that we will understand each other. This character right here, we're going to see a lot of. Let me zoom in on that just a little bit. That we call a brace. Some people call it a curly brace. This is the character that is above the square braces. So these guys are the square braces right here. You'll find them usually on your keyboard just to the right of the P key. So that's the left square brace and that's the right square brace. Let me throw a couple spaces in here and it'll make it just a little bit easier to see. So there's your right square brace and your left square brace. And I only point that out because these guys are slightly different looking, but very important that they that you know which one you're dealing with. If I usually I will call this the brace. I don't call it a curly brace usually, but I just call it a brace. And this one I will call the brackets. So sometimes we'll say square brackets and curly brackets. So watch out for that. Try to make sure you know which one you're looking at. One of the things about both braces and brackets is that they always come in pairs. For every left curly brace, there is a corresponding right curly brace. So these two go together here, and these two go together here. This one is matched by this one, and you'll notice that when I select one of these curly braces, the system kind of highlights the other one here. It's trying to help me out and point out, there's your corresponding brace. There's your corresponding brace. If I select this one, it selects that one kind of for me. It's not really selected, it's just highlighted. So it's trying to help me out to point that out. Parentheses, so just to make things extra confusing, then this is a parentheses here, or a parenthesis. And so it does the same thing. If I click on one or I click near one, it will highlight the other one to try to point out to me where the corresponding one is. So we've got kind of three different kinds of things here. These are your parentheses. These are your square brackets or your brackets. And these guys here are your braces or curly braces. So they're three completely separate things. They're used for separate things. Just remember, they always go in pairs. There's always an open to go with the close. The system will help you out a little bit and try to help you find it. And you can't, ever use one instead of the other. They have very specific purposes, and we'll talk about that. So watch out for that. Okay, so one of the things you're going to hear me say quite a bit is don't worry about that, or try not to worry about that. And I hope that you don't find it too annoying. There's times when there are things that we're not quite ready to talk about, but they have to be in here. Like some of this stuff here, it's going to be a while before we're ready to talk about this and what it is and what it does. But it's got to be here. The system put it in there for us, and so we didn't have to. That's nice. And until we're ready to talk about it, try not to worry about it. We're going to do all of our work kind of down in this area here. So if you take a look and you find, this area that says main, you'll find that it has an open brace and a closed brace that kind of belong to it. So these three guys kind of all go together. This open brace and closed brace kind of belong to this guy, and this open brace and this closed brace kind of belong to this guy. So these guys we're just going to not worry about for the moment. I'll tell you about them later. All the work that we're going to do for the moment is going to be right in this area here. So you can go ahead and put your cursor right there. Go ahead and just click right there after that. I'm going to hit the enter key. One of the things you'll notice is that the system is again going to try to help you out quite a bit. I didn't type. I just typed enter, and it typed a tab for me to move my cursor over into this area here. That's kind of a nice little feature that it does for you, just to help get things lined up to where you can read them. Again, I clicked here and typed enter, and that puts my cursor here. I'm going to type the word console, C-O-N-S-O-L-E, and one of the things you'll notice is that the system, again, is going to try and help us out. It's a very helpful system. It pops up this list of possibilities here of things that it thinks I might have been about to type. So it thinks maybe I was about to type one of these things down here, and it's offering to help me out. If I was going to about to type one of these, it can be very handy for me to go ahead and click on this, and I'm going to type a space character here, and it types all that stuff for me, so I don't have to type nearly as much. I type the first couple of characters and it types the rest, so that can be real handy. It turns out that that is not what I was going to type, so I'm going to go ahead and backspace that. I'm going to type the word console. So what I really was going to type is this one here. I just wanted to type console. That is one of its guesses. It happens to be the first guess. You'll notice that their guess has a capital C, and what I typed didn't have a capital C. Their guess is correct. What I typed is actually incorrect, and I did it because I'm lazy. I knew that they were going to guess this and put this up here for me, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this and hit space, and you'll notice that they go ahead and replace it with this correctly typed console, and that's fine. I'm going to type a dot, which is just the period key there, and they've already looked ahead and thought about what I might be about to type here. There's ways for them to guess, and we'll talk about that later. Based on the fact that I typed console and a period, there's some pretty decent guesses of what they think I might be about to type here. The one that I'm interested in is called right line, so I'm going to go ahead and type it. If I just type this much of it, it says, well, here's our best two guesses, and as I go a little bit farther, when I get to this point, it says, okay, I'm really down to one guess here. There's only one thing you could be about to type as far as I can guess. So this little guess area is still up here. I'm going to go ahead and hit space to accept that guess, because that is what I was going to type. I'm going to type a left parenthesis and a quote, and then the words hello, comma, space, world. I'm going to put an exclamation point there and a quote and a close paren. So I'm going kind of fast there, but let me talk about that in just a second here. So what I typed was console, and then the period, and then the word right line. It's all one word, and it does have a capital W and a capital L, and that's very important. You'll find that in programming, almost always your capitals count. If something is supposed to be capitalized, you must capitalize it. If it's not supposed to be capitalized, you must not capitalize it, or you will not get what you think you're going to get. So I happen to know that this one has a capital W and a capital L, and even if I didn't know, you can see that it keeps on kind of popping this thing up here. It's trying to help me out here. It's a little bit annoying sometimes because it keeps on popping in there. So I typed all of these things here, and then I typed this open parenthesis, and I typed an open quote. And I'll come back a little bit later and tell you, why I did that. For now, if you want to just go ahead and do it, that's fine. This part right here, I just typed hello world. It's kind of a tradition in programming that you write a program that says hello world, so we're going to do that. And after that part, there's this close quote which goes with that open quote. If I click on this again, it's going to try and find the open quote for me. It's not doing a very good job. If I click on the close parenthesis, it tries to find the open parenthesis just to help me out a little bit. And then I'm going to put a semicolon. So we'll talk in a little bit about why I typed exactly that, but you can go ahead and type that if you want. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and I'm going to do kind of the same thing again. I'm going to type CON. It guesses that I'm going to type console, and I am going to type console. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit, at this point I'm going to hit the period, the dot. And when I do, it finishes the guess for me, and it puts the dot in for me since I did type that. That's nice. That's a nice feature. I could just as well have typed that whole thing out, but I like the fact that it puts it in there for me. And again, I'm going to type capital W, R-I-T. It's guessing these various things. It's guessed right line for me, which happens to be correct. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my open parenthesis, and it's going to finish up the guess for me. So that's nice. It went ahead and typed those things for me. I'm going to put in a quote again and say, thanks for dropping by. A close quote to go with my open quote, a closed parenthesis to go with my open parenthesis, and a semicolon at the end. So again, let's imagine for a moment that I didn't put that semicolon on the end. You'll notice the little red squiggly here. You'll notice the little guess down here. It says, hey, there's a semicolon expected here. Its best guess is that there's something wrong with this line, and that what's wrong is you should have had a semicolon there. Turns out that that's a good guess. I'm going to put the semicolon there. Squiggly line goes away because there's no problem here anymore. This goes away because there's no problems that it's aware of anymore here. And so here's what we've got. Okay, so I'm going to add just one more line here. Similar to the other ones, console, I'm going to hit a dot. It's got these guesses for me here. The one I'm going to use this time is called read key. So let me double click that. It puts it in there for me. This time I'm going to put a paren and a closed paren and a semicolon real quick. Again, I'll tell you more about that later. So this is console dot read key paren semicolon. Whoops. Okay. So now it's time to run this program. Let's see what it does. This is in fact a complete program. We only wrote these 3 lines here. The system kind of wrote these other parts for us, and that's nice to get us started. This whole thing here makes up one whole program, and it actually will do something. So let's run it and see what it does. I'm going to hit save here real quick. I'm going to make this window a little bit smaller like this so that I can run it a little more easily. And then I'm going to say in the debug menu, start debugging. which is kind of another way of saying run my program. So I'm going to run the program. When the program runs, the system runs it in this other window. So this is the window that we were using to write the program, and this is the window that it uses to run the program. What this program does, you may have guessed, is it's pretty simple. It writes out onto the screen the words hello world, hello comma world, exclamation point. It writes some more words, thanks for dropping by, and those show up here. And then this here, console.read key, basically makes it just stop at this point. The program stops and waits for me to hit the enter key. And I have to put that in there so that it will stop here and give me time to look at it. So I look at it and I like it, so I hit the enter key, and it's done running my program. So that was one complete program that we just wrote. I'm double clicking. My favorite little shortcut here is to double click up here in the title bar, and that makes the window bigger or smaller. So this is a little program that we just wrote. Not very big, not very useful, but fully functional, and does enough that we can look at it and play with it. And in a minute, in the next lesson or two, we'll get into what all these things mean and how they work. But if you can type these things in and go debug, start debugging, and it does this, then you have succeeded. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and we're back here again. Good. Okay, so one last thing I want to touch on is that we need to save our project. A couple of times I've reached up here and hit this save icon, and that has saved this text file, but in reality we haven't really saved the whole project. Remember, the project is this guy here, and he kind of encompasses all of these components over here, one of which is our program. So we really need to save this project and this, what they call the solution. So I'm going to do a right click on this. Actually, I'm sorry, I can't right click. I have to click on it and then go File, Save. So because it's never been saved before, it asks us to do some of these things the first time. We can give it a name, and remember we gave it a name earlier and I said we could do this later. Well, this is the later. We gave it a name, so it's already got one. We don't have to do that. The question is, where do we want to save it on our disk? They start by making in your My Documents folder a couple of other folders. There's a Visual Studio folder. Inside that there's a Projects folder. So let me hit Browse, and it's going to show us that. So here's the My Documents folder, right? Inside that they've created this Visual Studio folder, and inside that they've created this Projects folder. So it does all these things for you already. What I like to do is click on that and say, let's make a new folder under the Projects folder. I'm going to right click on this and say Rename, and I'm going to call it C#. So basically they made this folder, they made this folder for us. I like to make a folder inside of that and select it and say yes, that's where you can save it. This just kind of keeps things separate. I like a lot of folders, so there it is. The solution is called Hello World. We kind of saw that over here, and we're just going to say save. So it's going to save all that for us. Let me just show you that real quick. If you go Start, Documents, My Documents, this is your familiar My Documents folder. So here's that folder they created for us. Inside of that there's a number of things, one of which is this Projects folder. So I'm going to open that up. And then I created this C# folder. So inside there is, our project, our Hello World project. I'm going to open it up, and there's a couple of different things in here. If you're lucky, you'll never have to come in here. You'll do all your work over here. You'll never have to come in here. But it's nice to take a look inside here. Here's the file that represents the solution. You notice it says Studio Solution. So that kind of represents this line right here. Okay. Inside that, there's this Hello World folder, which holds all these things, and those kind of represent these things down in here. So there's kind of a correspondence. Here's program.cs, and you'll notice that that's right here. With a little luck, you'll never have to come in here, and you'll never have to see these things. I'm going to close it. With a little luck, you'll just do all your work out here. you really only when you first create the solution or when you first save it do you ever have to worry about where it's going to be on the disk, and after that you'll really just work in here. But I wanted to show it to you. So we should be pretty well good and saved here. There's this Save All button here that we can click. Anytime you're not sure, you can just click Save All. It saves every single one of these. It saves that one and that one and that one. It saves them all, so that's nice. Right before you're going to quit, you might want to say Save All just to be sure. And there you go. I'm going to look in on my help files, which are still downloading. Okay, so it's downloading 16 of 22. As I mentioned, these are quite large. I have a very slow connection. This might take a couple of hours. I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to leave it sitting right there, and it's going to work overnight. And by the time I come in, tomorrow, they'll all be downloaded and installed. So don't worry about that too much. So that gives you a little introduction. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Right. So here's the close on the. This guy kind of hangs around and he's doing his work, so I'm going to say hide on him. So as kind of a review, what did we do? We downloaded Visual C++ Express, right? We went to Google, Visual Studio Express. Up it came. We clicked here. We did the install. This is so fast. I'm just going to show it to you again. Right, so we used this install button to do the install. The end result of that was this nice icon here, which we can double click. Brings up our studio here. Here's a little introduction to what it's going to look like the next time you start it. It goes back to this start page and it says, hey, here's some recent projects that you've been working on. Maybe you would like to open them. Well, there's the one that we just finished working on, so I'm going to click on it. Yeah, it brings us right back to where we were before. So that's nice. And next time we'll start talking a little bit about what some of these things mean and why we're doing it. And I'll see you then.